Here sometime when the clouds part for a minute. If you're caught outside, it's third-degree burns for sure." He glanced down at the nearly empty glass. "How about another rainbow? If you get enough of them in you, you won't notice the heat. You won't notice anything." He laughed uproariously at the hoary joke. T looked at him disgustedly and without answering bent to his drink once more. He felt someone jostle his elbow and turned sideways to allow the newcomer access to the bar. After a moment he wiped his forehead on his sleeve. The bartender placed another rainbow before him. "Hey, I didn't order that," he cried. The bartender nodded toward the next stool. "On him." T turned and saw a barrel-chested, red-haired giant holding up a drink in the immemorial bar toast. He raised his own glass gingerly, but his trembling hand caused the layers to mix and he stared ruefully at the resultant clayey-looking mess. The redhead laughed. "Mix another one, Joe." "But—" T's face got red. "I came in here to talk to you anyway," said the giant. "You own the Starduster, don't you?" "Yeah, what about it?" "Like to get her out of hock?" "Who says she's in hock?" "Look," said the redhead, "let's not kid each other. Everybody around this port knows you blew in from Lemmy T last month and can't raise the money to pay the port charges, much less the refueling fee. And it's no secret that you're anxious to leave our fair planet." He winked conspiringly at T. "So?" The redhead glanced at the bartender, who was busy at the other end of the bar. He leaned closer and whispered, "I know where the Ellen of Troy is." "The Ellen of Troy?" "Oh, that's right. You wouldn't know about her. 8 months ago she crashed on an uninhabited planet somewhere in this sector. So far they've been unable to find her." He leaned closer. "She was carrying 4 million in Penrex crystals." "What's that to me?" The redhead looked around briefly to make sure no one was in hearing distance, then whispered softly without moving his lips, "I told you, they can't find her, but I know where she is." "You know? But how?" "Look," said the giant, frowning, "I didn't ask why you're so anxious to leave." "Well?" "I'll clear your ship and we can pick up the crystals for the salvage fee, 1 million each, and all nice and legal. And we can leave by the end of the week and be back in probably 6 months." "6 months?" T stood up. "Sorry." The redhead grabbed his arm in a ham-like palm. 1 million each in 6 months. What's wrong with that?" T jerked out of his grasp. I just can't do it." "I don't know what you're running from," persisted the redhead, "but with 1 million credits you can fight extradition for the rest of your life. This is your big chance, can't you see that? Besides, this planet has some interesting customs." He winked at T. "I can introduce you." "I can't stay here," interrupted T. You just don't understand." "Look," cried the redhead exasperatedly, "I'm offering you a full partnership on a 2 million credit salvage deal, and you want to back out because it'll take 6 months? On top of that, you're broke and stranded, and your hangar bill gets bigger every day. If you don't take me up on this deal, you'll still be sitting here 6 months from now wondering how to get your ship out of hock, if you don't get caught first. What do you say? What have you got to lose?" What did he have to lose? T gripped the edge of the bar till his knuckles showed white. "No, I just can't do it. Why don't you get someone else? The slow tubs around this port would take years for the trip. I can see the Starduster has class." "Fastest thing in the galaxy," said T proudly. Then earnestly, "I'm sorry, you'll just have to find some other ship." "Think it over," said the redhead. "I'll wait. When you change your mind, look me up. Name's Yule Larson." He slapped T heavily on the back and swaggered toward the door. He turned and looked back. "Better go along with me. After 6 months they can auction off your ship and pay for the port charges, you know." The door swung shut behind him. T sat down again and bent his head, nursing his drink. His eyes darted nervously around the room and came to rest on the clock. A shudder ran through him and he lowered his eyes quickly. As he sipped his drink his eyes returned to the clock continually, as though drawn there against their will. As he watched, the minute hand jerked downward and an involuntary gasp escaped his lips. The bartender turned quickly. "Anything wrong?" No, nothing." As he spoke the minute hand moved again and T started nervously, upsetting his drink. He sat for a moment watching the bartender mop up the spreading liquid, then abruptly got up and tossed a half-credit piece on the bar. He hurried outside, steeling himself to keep from running. He paused just outside the door. Stand still, he told himself. Mustn't run, mustn't run. No use anyway. If I only knew when. If I just could stop and rest. If I had the time. Time. That's what I need. Light years of time. But when? When? If only I could be sure. He looked up slowly at the murky canopy of clouds. If I only knew when. He looked indecisively up and down the field, then squaring his shoulders resolutely, set out for the administration building. At this hour the office was deserted except for a wispy-haired little man who sat at a desk fussing with some papers. He looked up questioningly as T came in. "Is my ship recharged and provisioned?" asked T. What's the name, please?" "T. Ormond. I own the Starduster." The clerk pulled a card from a file on the desk and studied it. "Ah, yes, the Starduster. I'd like to pay my bill and clear the Starduster for immediate departure." Very good, Mr. Ormond." He consulted the card again. "That'll be 1,411 credits," he beamed. "We included a case of Rukeyser's concentrate, compliments of the management." He handed a circular to T. "This is a list of our ports and facilities on other planets. Our accommodations are the finest, and we carry a complete line of parts." He smiled professionally. "What about my key?" asked T, pulling out his wallet. Let's see. Number 37. The clerk started for a numbered board hanging on the wall. He never got there. T whipped a stun gun from inside his jacket and waved it at the clerk's back. It caught him in mid-stride, and unbalanced, he crashed heavily to the floor. T glanced briefly down as he stepped over the paralyzed form, avoiding the accusing eyes, and snatched the magnetic key off the hook. He forced himself to walk calmly across the field toward the hangar that housed the Starduster. A uniformed guard stopped him at the hangar door. "May I see your clearance, sir?" he asked politely. T hesitated for a moment. "Oh, I'm just going to get something out of my ship," he said smoothly. The clerk said it was Raj." "The clerk said, but he can't." The guard tensed. "Mind if I check, sir? Orders, you know." He bent his head slightly as he pressed a knob on his wrist radio. As his eyes turned downward, T swung the stun gun in an arc that ended on the back of the guard's head. As he leaped into the Starduster, he was sorry for a moment that he hadn't had time to recharge the gun, and hoped he hadn't struck too hard. October 11th, 433rd year, Galactic Era. T stepped out of the hangar and surveyed the twin suns. The pale binaries sat stolidly on the horizon, 40 degrees apart. Their mingled light washed down dimly on the single continent of the planet Aurora. He started as a man walked around the corner of the hangar. The man looked at T searchingly for a moment, then asked, "Anything troubling you, T?" Why no, Mr. Jenner. You just startled me, that's all." "Well, how's everything coming?" "Right on schedule. We'll be ready for the final test by the end of the week." "By the way," asked Jenner speculatively, "how come you ordered the ship stocked and provisioned for the test?" Why, I think she should be tested under exactly the same conditions as she'll encounter in actual use." "We could have done it a lot cheaper by just using ballast," said Jenner. "After this, I want to personally see any voucher for over 100 credits before it's cleared." "Yes, sir, but I just didn't want to bother you with the details." "An expenditure of over 2,000 credits isn't just detail. But let it pass. It's already done. Anyway, on the drawing board, she's the fastest thing in the galaxy." He smiled. "If she lives up to expectations, she'll make your ship look like an old freighter. We've got 4 million sunk into her so far, so she'd better check out Raj." He put his hand on T's shoulder. "You're not worried about testing her, are you? You've been jumpy lately." "Oh, no, nothing like that, Mr. Jenner. I'm just, well, I've been up all night watching them install the gyroscopes. Think I'll get some sleep." He yawned. Jenner cupped his chin in his palm and stood staring after the retreating figure. As T turned and looked back nervously, Jenner entered the hangar office. He spoke softly in the visiphone, and in a moment the screen lit up. "Is this the prison administrator?" asked Jenner. "What can I do for you?" "My name is Jenner, Consolidated Spacecraft." "Yes?" "Suppose an escaped prisoner from Hades landed on Aurora." "No one escapes from Hades prison." "Well, just suppose one did." "I never receive information about escapees." "But you're the administrator here.